method.
Good evening. It is another clear night for Mahjong. Hopefully, no storms on the horizon for these tables. I will be one of your commentators at the start tonight. My name is Ennui, and I am joined by the most recent, the Beta League champion, Eric. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing great. No storms here where I'm at. I have been procrastinating a little bit. I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I thought, all right, let's have a little fun, unwind a little, and get some great games in.
Yeah, every time one of my students complained to me about the fact that there were not grades in the grade book for them on time, I was always like, God, I'm just so busy, and very much not mentioning the fact that I've been goofing around with so much mahjong.
That's great. Well, it looks like our game is about to start here, or at least it should. So at the table, we have Michael G, who is currently in fourth place. We have Scott H in demotion range, but only by 23.2 points. We have Molly, who is on the cusp of plus or minus 0, only very slightly negative, and Joshua, who is 2 spots below Molly, but can look to swing with a about 40-point Gyukten. So it's going to be very tense. Everyone has their own reasons to fight here.
Yeah, and in the league format, there's almost never a reason not to fight at all. And here we go. The hands have come down on the table, and it looks like our first door is going to be the west.
And it seems like Michael is the first dealer. Looking around, Michael's hand has a Ryankan and 2 Ryanman as well as a Shampon shape, and he just improved to a Penchon Shampon as well. So decent hand, no inherent value, but it can get to Pinfu. To the right, we have also very much the same, less shapes in place, but does have that lone West Dora. Across, same story actually, kind of mediocre shapes, but it can go places. And then to the left, we have that East pair, so I'm thinking that's going to have some speed compared to the other hands.
Yeah, as long as one's able to come out, we do have Michael drawing very incredible tiles right from the get-go here is already Ishanten.
Right, an interesting decision to cut that 2-pin there. I wonder if I would have greeted for the 1-2-3 Sanchoku, but this is, a very straightforward way to complete the hand.
Do you think Michael is kind of banking on ending up on the 1-1 Shanpon?
That might be it, and especially cutting, now two pins like that, it might disguise it a little bit. Wonder if he's going to angle for Itsu here. And it does look like Michael has sacrificed a little
Ooh!
bit of efficiency, but immediately gets paid off with the upgrade.
Yeah, and that 3-mon did get called by Molly on the left, who drew in the third east that they needed. Oh, there's Tempai, and indeed, we have the 1-1 Champon right after Molly has discarded one. This is, however, Ricci only, I believe.
It does look like it, and to the right we have a Sanshoku Ishanten brewing, which can be Ricci, Pinfu, Sanshoku, and I believe that's Joshua, who will probably end up fighting here. And now the 1-mon is Suji trapped, so if someone draws it, could come out.
None. The only winning tile in anyone's hand right now is that 1 peen that is in Molly's hand. Oh,
Oh, and there goes the sumo on the last one, man. Ichi sumo. And Yura? None, but 1,000 all is a great way to start a dealer.
Oh yeah, a good way to just kind of set the tone with some momentum. And look at this.
Wow.
2 Dora, 5 pairs. What would you
And
go for with this hand?
I'm thinking Toy Toy, just these are easy to call pairs, I guess, other than the Dora and the 7, so. But you are Ishan 10 from Chitoy, so obviously if that comes first, you go for it. And it looks like Michael might be leveraging that and perhaps thinking about the South Tonki since it's once cut.
Yeah, and in the hand here, the Dora that we are talking about is the Haku.
However,
Ooh,
looking to the
boom.
right, we also have an interesting hand. Might be able to leverage Junchan, maybe even Sanshoku if they keep this 9-man.
yeah,
Across, we have the Yakuhai pair. Also Ishan 10. Though if they want to use the Yakuhai, they're going to have to trade out maybe one of those 5-man or the 7-pin. And then to the left, we have kind of a more normal hand. Looks to be 2 Shanten, if I'm not wrong. And here comes the Haku Pon.
Yeah, the Haku was pawned right as soon as it came into Scott's hand. Scott was like, I can't use this, and just kind of yeeted it back out, and Michael grabbed it. That is the only poem that Michael has been able to get so far. Although now, of course, I think you would take probably a 5-so or 8-so, wouldn't you? Since you already have plenty of value in the hand.
Absolutely. And we see the Sumoguri of the Hatsu, but 2 of them were already out, so the Daisangan Dream was dead. And now another interesting point.
I
Does Greed
I almost would have discarded the 9-pin there, so I could hedge my bets between Toy Toy and Honitsu.
I guess the thought here is, ¿por qué no los dos? We're going to have Toy Toy, Honroto, Yaku, Yaku, Dora 3, Honitsu.
Yeah, that is an incredibly good point. I mean, and that is kind of what came into fruition here.
Of course,
Eat.
like you're probably thinking, the efficiency isn't great of cutting Rhiannon, but the value probably justifies it here. But we have a Riichi to the right, waiting for 2, just 5 pins, sorry. Oh, wait.
Is that dead? Is that, hold on? They have the 789, and then they have that 4-6. Yeah,
Right.
that's an empty
Boom.
Riichi.
Unfortunate. I was looking at that and I didn't see the 1-man pair, and I thought it was, a 2, 4, 5 pin wait. But because of that 1 pin pair, this is a dead Kanchan, and this is really dangerous to be in this situation. The dealer has just gotten Tenpai on the east and the red, and the east might come out being once dropped, maybe even the red being the Dora indicator. However, we have a chasing Riichi on the west and the 7-man, and it looks like those are entirely live except for one 7-man. And
oh my god, this is going to be absolutely massive.
So Toy Toy, Yaku Yaku, Homeroll to Honitsu Dora 3, 36,000 Sanbaimon right from the start.
Dealer Sanbaimon! That's only, what, our 6th Sanbaimon total in the entire league? And the dealer's gotten one in East 1, and right off the bat, Michael's already above 70k, and Scott, having called Ricci on, frankly, what was a pretty good weight with the Honor Shanpon, is just right into the negatives, and Joshua not punished at all for the dead Ricci.
Yeah, Joshua must be sitting there and going, woo, right? But, it doesn't feel good to start a game like this because, I mean, at the cost of cursing the players, this is pretty insurmountable lead.
Now, we have seen this almost exact lead go up in flames earlier in the season, nary a week ago. So, it does feel insurmountable, though. I mean, we've only seen this kind of lead overcome once in basically, 9 weeks. No, not 9 weeks. 9 sessions worth of Mahjong that we've watched.
Right, and I guess this is, if there's going to be any time that a person runs ahead with the game, it's better to be early on because you still have all those other hands to try and get back at it. Talking about this specific hand, it looks like dealer has a fairly normal kind of Pinfu style hand, still needs another block. To the right we have the Yakuhai pair and a Honitsu shove. Unfortunately, that penchant does backfire for them, but they're going for the value anyway. Across the way, it looks like we have a 2 Shanten, but with no inherent value unless there's some kind of Sanshoku shift. Oh, and we see the Khan.
Yeah, Joshua taking the open con, and that makes the South the new Dora, which does benefit Molly, who immediately gets into Tenpai, and then calls Ricci, has Dora 3, as well as the confirmed Peiko.
Unfortunately, this is a bit...
Another con!
Oh.
Which adds another Dora to Molly's hand.
Unfortunately, this is a bit tragic because the dealer, Michael, who is probably the least likely to push at this point, has an uncle of the 7-mon, completely killing Molly's weight unless for some reason it comes out. Maybe trusting Suji later, but for now does have some safety in the Chun. And we also have Tenpai to the right on 3-pin Penchan, of which there are 2 left. And also Tenpai Cross now on the 6-9 pin, so everyone but Michael has gotten into Tenpai.
The 6-9 pin though, is there a Yaku there? There's a closed con on the 9-mon.
Doesn't look like it. That seems to be, at best, K10. There's no way to con either and try and go for Rinchan.
I do wonder if, at this point, if you're Scott, do you maybe consider that this con and opening and things, you maybe are trying to up the value of Molly's hand up? Ooh, there we go.
Maybe. Well, yeah, with such a large lead, you want the dealer to take bigger Oyakaburi. So obviously, you don't want to pay out for the sumo either, but you have to start making value in some way.
And that was just Haku Honitsu for Joshua there, who is our new dealer, with the Wonso as Dora.
Alright, so Joshua does pull a little ahead. Molly hasn't lost the race yet. And that's good news for Scott, who now has a little bit less of a gap to close. Looking at the hands here, we already have the West Pawn from Toyman. All of their shapes are in place, so they're sitting in a comfy 2 Shanten, even if the shapes aren't that great. Over to the right, we have a pair of Nords. This is looking very much like Pinfu to me. And then to the left, an Ishanten actually. Ishanten from Ricci Pinfu at best, depending on how that Penchan Shanpon feels.
Could also incorporate Tanyao.
Right, and now we see that swap over there, and now the Tanyao is guaranteed even for a called hand.
And that is a perfect Ishanten, so looking very good for Michael to get to Tenpai once again.
Chooses to skip the 8-so pawn, which was interesting because it's a nice Ryanman Tenpai and you already have a lead, but perhaps aiming to be even more greedy. However, it might backfire now if he draws the 5-8 mon and has to drop that 7 mon into this Ricci.
Well, and so this Ricci, which is... Oh, there it is.
Oh, it decides to Dama too.
It is
Ricci
only. Which isn't exactly what Scott needed, but it is a start. Now only at minus 7,000. The Dora is the 2-mon. Can't incorporate it into the hand yet. What else do you think Scott could make to get some value out of this first dealership?
I mean, well, now that we got the Haku, you can go for a fast hand. I think with a hand like this where nothing is exactly jumping out at you yet, and you don't have any Dora, you probably just go for speed as dealer and try and get a repeat and some better material. And it is coming together a little bit.
Do you take an Altazuke call? Like if the 3-so comes out, for instance, do you cheat that?
Oh, that's tough. As dealer, I might. I'm always hesitant to take Autozuke. I know I probably should do it more often. But yeah, if it fills the bad shape in your hand, then it's generally not a bad idea, especially if it's something like the 2-4 where you can't tell if it's just Tanyao or something else yet.
Joshua on the left just discarded the 8-mon. Any ideas why that tile would have been sumo-giried?
I can only imagine it's some kind of a mouse slip or aiming for Chitoi.
There are 5 pairs now.
Yeah, actually 6, if I'm seeing it correctly. Tempo on the 6-7 mon 5 pin after that draw. So yeah, it does seem like the aim is like Tanyao Chitoi Dora 2. And we also have an Ishan 10 for dealer on the 3-6-8 mon or 7 pin. Looking around at the other hands, we have Tanyao shapes going on to the right. Still 2 Shanten, and across the way, we have 4 players probably thinking about Chitoy as well this late. You know, Chitoy is really one of those great hands defensively. Oh, but actually, swapping to the 2 Shanten with the Ipeiko chance, and maybe even Junchan if you draw like the 8 mon or the 9 mon.
Yeah, that would be a very nice little upgrade. Yeah, no one else really has a ton of value with which to fight at the moment. With this two pin, do you abandon the Pinchon, take a step back, or no? They're gonna
I'm
keep it like
thinking
that.
about it, but with the 1 pins out and the chance of Furiten, it's probably best to just keep the Ishan 10 this late.
And then we do now have two calls on the left. Joshua took the pawn of the two pin and considered the chi of the Formon, but didn't take it. And on the right, Molly has called the 6-0. And is now Tempai waiting on the 1-4-7? Is that wait? Two, no, just 1-4, but can
Yeah.
only win on the Formon.
Luckily for Molly, all the 1 mon are already locked up, and there's 2 4 mon remaining that aren't in people's hands. It looks like Scott is going to take the pawn here, aiming for Tempai and Yaku. Probably thinking it's getting pretty late, he has to start moving, and here's his Tempai. Now, whether he chooses to... Oh! Passes, actually, and if he takes the 5-8 mon wait, will deal in.
Oh!
Unfortunate. I really would have considered taking that call there and taking like the 9 pin Tanki. Just being Tenpai's dealer is very valuable, especially when you can win. Unfortunately, the dealership is lost, and we move on to Molly's dealer turn.
And so now the north is going to be the Dora, which I always get super excited about because I'm so used to playing Sanma, but that's not particularly special here.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard to use Dora, though I guess it's a little easier to get on a Dora Tanki. It's one of those tiles that other people aren't going to use. But just looking around here, the dealer's hand is kind of sluggish at the moment. It only has 1 potential Yakuhai to pair up, even though it is the double tone, and still needs to form some shapes. However, I could see it shaping into Pinfu. To the right, we have also kind of blocks set in place. There's at least one block, that 6-8-9 pin, that can improve, but also seeming like it's gonna move towards Pinfu. Across the way, we now have a Yakuhai Anko on the Chun, and decent shapes. Does need to form another pair, though, if they want to use that. Oh, sorry, my bad. The 5 pin is paired up and is now Ishan 10 on the 7 mon and 4-7. So, and lastly, to the left, you know, very much the same story as the hand to our right. Kind of hoping for Pinfu, maybe. Or
Molly,
dealer Ricci.
yeah, Molly has entered Tempai. This is Ricci Pinfu waiting on the 2-so and 5-so.
And it does seem like there's 6 left in the wall, which is really good for an end of row 1 Ricci.
This is something I wonder a lot while we're calling these streams. Oh, that 2-so can't be used, so we'll see if there's going to be a fight. There is, and deals into this Ricci Pinfu.
I don't know if I like to fight there just because the hand isn't kind of together yet, but I'm not sure if there were any defensive options. I wasn't paying attention. Unfortunate, but dealer does get the Ricci Pinfu very fast.
And what's kind of interesting, I know we're only in East 4 here, there's still a lot of game left to play, but we do have 3 players above 30,000, which when one player has 64,000 you don't expect, but since that 64,000 came from a San Baimon dealer direct hit, I guess that kind of explains how this situation came to be.
Right, and now that lead is getting chipped away at. We saw that Michael was above 70k just a little while ago, but has now fallen to 64k. On the other hand, Scott still has a lot of work to make back his points, has only been able to really put together cheap hands through no fault of his own.
Yeah, I feel like the Dora's been hard to grab here. The Dora is the 7 mon on this hand, and Scott does have one of those, but so does Molly the dealer, and Molly's hand looks a lot faster than Scott's does.
Yeah, it really does. It already has an overflow of shapes. She has 6 blocks right now, and will probably end up cutting the 3-5 mon if the hand progresses, because that leaves all good two-sided Yuanmin weights. Though now it upgraded to a Yuan Kan, but chooses not to take that upgrade. Probably thinking of 5, 6, 7 Sanshoku and doesn't want to discard the 7 pin.
Oh, the 567 Sanchoku is interesting. That's almost a little tricky to see, I feel like, with that 4-5 peen shape.
Yeah,
Oh, and
and I
Molly
think... Oh, this is
is either
interesting
going to have
too.
to is either going to have to discard the 9 peen or somehow shift to a 3-4-5 Sanchoku to get a Yaku out of this.
And this is tricky too, because you have a couple shapes that, if they fill in wrong, like that one just did, they don't give you your Tanya, and there's no real backup Yaku here. At least none that I can see easily.
Yeah,
And indeed, yeah, does abandon that.
oh, and on the left, the Sozu are filling in for Scott. Can we get a little bit more value out of this?
I
It's gonna
think
be
Scott
hard. It's gonna be hard even to push for Itsu though, with the way they're arranged.
I think Scott has to go for broke for the rest of this Hanshan. Maybe even thinking of Chinitsu, pawn the 2, so pawn the 9, so end on a 1, so Tonki, or some kind of crazy thing like that. That's the only way he's going to be able to stay in the game here, but it looks like he's abandoning that and trying for the Itsu. And now Molly here has managed to call again and kind of gotten rid of some of that dependency on the Ryanman that can only fill in one side, but still in
Yeah.
a tough spot.
And actually ends up with a backfire there. Had thrown away the 2s because, as you said, it could only fill on one side, but then ends up drawing the 4-so. But now we have Tempai across the table from Joshua, and that looks like Richi Penfu waiting on the 6-so and 9-so.
And this is really bizarre because you'd think there would be at least one left on the wall, but every single one of Josh's weights are in people's hands or already discarded.
And they are all currently being used in some form or fashion.
Right. I can't really see any of these coming out other than maybe Scott's 9-so. But if he's going for Itsu, it'll probably be more likely the 6-so that comes out. And
And it
maybe
does
Molly
look
now.
like Molly's playing defense here.
She is Ishanten, though.
Oh, and the
And
6-so comes out. Not a big hit at all, but that does drop Molly below 30k.
and we enter South 1. So it's Michael's dealership again, and it's going to be interesting to see whether he pushes for more value and be greedy, or if he's just going to let it pass quietly and avoid any big dealer hits. However, like the hand we see in front of us is kind of a hand you want to go to. If you draw the 7 pin, you get the Dora, you have the Ipeiko chance. You can even wrap this around to 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku or 7, 8, 9 Sanshoku, depending on your draws. So it doesn't seem like a hand that I just fold from the start. Meanwhile, on the right, looks like we have kind of your classic Pinfu setup. No Dora yet, but can accept the Dora. Decides to Chi and move towards a fast Tanya.
Talking about speed, if you're Molly on the left, would you whoa, well that's Dora 3. I hadn't even the Dora is the 7 peen, and Molly has a pair of her Yakupai Wind.
Oh yeah, whenever I have a hand like that, my only thought is speed and, whatever Yaku I can get fastest. I mean, here you're Ishanten or Richi, but you absolutely pawn that north if it comes out, and you drop maybe the Penchan, which gives you the most option to call into Tenpai.
And
However,
Joshua called into Tempai himself and ends up getting the Tonki on the 3-mon for Tanyao only, and just skips Michael's dealership, basically.
yeah, Michael probably not too upset about that, just able to kind of coast for the rest of the hunt and get a lot of points out of this pending any disasters. So we move into Joshua's dealership, and Joshua has a pretty nice hand, already 2 Shanten, though the shapes need improvement. You could see a potential Itsu come about depending on where another pair is drawn. For example, if you draw like the 1-2 pin and then the 8-mon, then you're in business. What do you think about the hand on the right? Chitoi or a normal hand? Oh, now with this 4-mon.
Well, yeah, I feel like you maybe move towards Chitoi. You have 2 of the Dora 9-so. So if you're Scott, what you need more than anything is value, and look at that, another pair.
And we also see two of the Dora 9s so locked on the left with another potential chi toy. Seems like there's 4 pairs already. And if we look across, there's also 3 pairs, though there's a lot more connected shapes than some of the other hands.
Yeah, so if you're Scott, I feel like now you're going full steam ahead for Chi Toy. What do you want your final weight to be?
I'm probably looking at the one so at the moment just because it's the most likely tile to come out blindly against you, and decides to keep the efficiency and keep the Forso, which will give them better chances of getting to Tenpai, though of course you lose the opportunity for the Suji trap on the once cut one so.
Now, I do wonder, is that really much more efficient in the long run if we're going to go Chi Toy anyway?
Oh, one tile can make a huge difference just because you only have 9 tiles that put you into Tenpai. But you also have to think about the final weight, because Tenpai doesn't mean anything if you get into Tenpai with your huge hand. You have a slim chance at drawing it yourself. That's just the nature of Chitoin winning on a Tanki, and it's unlikely for other people to drop it. Like, if I'm looking at that pond, I'm probably not thinking about dropping Forso on the Ipatsu turn. But if the Forso was out, I might think about dropping the 1-so if I had nothing better.
And Ipatsu could be a huge help for Scott, who needs as many points as they can get. On the left, Michael has drawn now into Tenpai. What weight is going to be chosen here? Can choose a Shanpon or a Yeonmin, and ends up taking the Yeonmin 2-5 weight. This is Richi Dora 2.
And this is a little sneaky because you see the 3-4 pin Tadashi cut, so it looks like he cut the Ryanman that he's actually waiting on.
And
actually, if he had chosen the Shampoo, he would have been dead.
And Josh was able to call for open Itsu.
Yeah, not having any of this opposition from Michael, goes for the quick Itsu on the 8-mon and gets it.
Yeah, and Molly now really needs to make up this ground. Is going to be the final dealer, so we'll have a pretty good chance then. Our Dora is going to be the 8-pin, which we only see 2 of out right now.
And if you look to the left, we just have this monstrous Honitsu that'll complete really easily, just filled the Penshan as well. The dealer's hand is looking like it's still undecided between Chitoy and a normal hand. To the right, we have Yakuha and a Penshan just filled, but this still isn't really the value that Scott is looking for. And then across the way, we probably have the most pedestrian hand of them all, aiming for Tanpin, Dora 1, or Dora 2, depending on how you pair that 8-pin up. Maybe Sanshoku.
I do wonder, if you're looking at Scott's hand, if a tune comes out, do you see this hand becoming valuable in any way? Or do you feel, well, there's a Dora, which might help. Oh, but immediately tosses it back in.
And then, yeah, we move into 2 Shanten with this hand. And that 8-pin pawn is actually sort of harmful, because it isolates the 9-pin, but the 9-pin becomes a really good Tanki. And I can only imagine that the West is going to come out. It seems to have just passed before that call. So we see the Khan.
And now the East is Dora, but those have already been discarded. We now have a Tonki for Toy Toy from Joshua, and I feel like Joshua has been Tenpai every single hand.
Right. Now, if you're Scott, you're probably thinking of just aiming for reach as fast as you can, because, yeah, like you were saying earlier, if you call the Chun, you just have Chun. Right? There's no more Dora to get there, so you have to look underneath. You have to aim for that Richi. I don't understand this pawn.
Has now the dead what? Oh, maybe is gonna. You can try for Rinshan on your next draw, I suppose. Oh, yeah, but this is Uritan.
Oh, and gets the Rinshan Sumo.
Oh my god!
However, it is Rinshan only.
What a wild...
That's how crazy. You move out of Tenpai for Toy Toy, you switch to a dead weight, and you con with the Furuten Sanmenchan and you sumo for Rinshan only where you had Toy Toy before. But of course, it's the one that counts.
You could have just called the con right when the one mon came out to begin with. I wonder if that was a misclick. It
Right.
doesn't change the score at all, but it changes how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm on your side here. I think it's just the misclick because otherwise I can't really think of any reason to do that. There's some big brain moves that I'm not seeing.
We do have one of the Dora One-So in hand for Joshua once again. Joshua does seem to have some sort of Tenpai magic, is only 18,000 behind Michael now, so is a clean dealer Hanuman away, although Michael once again drawing in a Pinzu Honitsu.
But you know what's better than one Dora? Two Dora, or actually three now, with Toy chances. And has to force some kind of Yaku here, probably just going for the Toy. Actually, I don't even see anything else that you can do with it. So yeah, Toy Dora-san across the way, and the Honitsu is moving forward for
Yeah,
Michael.
and Toy is a really. I always hate playing against Toys because it's just so hard to figure out what the weight might be. And now we have another step. There is Ishan 10 from Molly now, and if Molly is able to draw into Tenpai, would also have the chance of getting San Anko, which would be a very needed Hanuman, although has to call the 7-mon, and is now Tenpai waiting on the Easts and the 4-pin.
Of which none are out yet. And you have to think that East comes out, even if you're scared of Toy. If your hand is close, it's probably gonna just leap out.
I don't know though, with Michael having this Honitsu on the left. Oh, now we have the open con. No Rinshan this time, though. The new Dora is the 3-so, which nobody has. And then we have Tenpai for Michael on the left, on the 2-pin and 3-pin, and then an immediate call of the South from Scott, who is now waiting on the 4-pin.
So there's a chance for a double run here. And Scott has just the double South, but will move into his dealership. So yeah, this is a situation where you're fine with the con as Toy because you don't have a chance at Sananko. Oh, and it comes out just like that.
And you know what? Takes it from Michael. So Michael's now only going to be in the lead by 10,000 points. That massive, massive lead we were talking about could very easily go away. A Mangan Sumo would be enough to put Joshua in first.
Yeah, and that's the trouble. When you're in the lead, you feel like you can push more because you have that many more points to work with, and you're just trying to move things along with fast hands, but that can sometimes leave you really exposed, and then suddenly that lead disappears and you're back at square one. However, in South 3, you still have a great advantage here, especially since your point adversary doesn't have a dealership left.
And the Dora is the 8-mon here, which there's only one of in Molly's hand, although Scott has a handful of Monzu that maybe could force the 8-mon in there.
Yeah, I think, if you draw the 8-mon, you're definitely like cutting the 3-so or something like that. And just hedging towards a fast hand, there's no great value to be had here. So I think Scott's game plan is probably just going to be to Renshan as much as he possibly can, and at the very least, do some damage control.
And just for clarification, did you say Renshan or Renshan there?
Oh, both would be nice, but yes, Renshan, a dealer repeat.
Although I don't know if my heart could take many more Renshans. Not drawing incredibly useful tiles, and there Michael is getting the West pawn, is able to speed up the hand a little bit to try and prevent the comeback from Josh.
Right, and he went from Ishan 10, I believe, to Headless Ishan 10, which is a lot wider. It's easier to draw into temp. Now, you're in trouble if you draw the 2-5-8 pin, because then you end on a Tonki on the 5-mon or the 7-mon, which isn't great. However, a lot of the other draws aren't that bad.
Well, and you could go the other way. If you're able to draw, say, the 4-mon or 3-mon, you could even hit an Ishan 10 for Sanshoku.
Right.
Oh, and there's the 3-mon.
And now has the Nakasuji trap on the 4-mon.
Ooh, the 9-mon comes in for Scott.
And I think, you just have to Richi here, as there's no point in waiting around. Even if you pick up the door, it's difficult to use.
Yeah,
so we see 5-8 pin Richi.
Yeah, really, your best bet at value here is probably Urasan. I mean, we still only see 2 Dora out at all. Do we get it? Are we gonna get it?
No. But still, you take those, and Molly decided to push the half Suji on the 7-8 pin upgrade. However, still is above 30k. And
now
here
we've got
Scott has Dora 2 Yakuhai pair.
the Dora is the Chun, not the Haku. So
Sorry,
unfortunately, that's
yeah,
not going to be the value that Scott needs.
I'm thinking about it in reverse. If the Haku comes out, the Hatsu becomes Dora. My bad. But yeah, still a way to speed this hand up.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're Scott, you are never going to get all of your points back in one hand anyway. You might as well just, as you said, dealer repeat ad infinitum and just, just get it the old-fashioned way. We do have a pawn now from Molly who is trying to get a quick toy here.
Molly can also accept the 4-so and the 6-so to get into Tenpai for Tanyon Nomi. However, with the 6-so pawn now, that's looking a lot worse than it did when she pawned the 2-pin.
Yeah, I said toy, and I definitely meant Tanyao for sure.
Oh, you can definitely get Toy out of that with the perfect draws.
The toy is on the left, though. Joshua once again Tenpai waiting on the 3-mon and the 5-mon.
Of which 2 remain in the wall. However, I don't see this 3-mon or the 5-mon coming out from the other players. And if Scott draws it, he just moves forward.
That would be a 5th pair for Scott.
Interestingly, Molly gives up kind of the efficiency of the 4-mon, which allows her to expand that Mansu shape and get rid of the 6-9 so to keep a safe tile. Probably more concerned with just staying over 30k than trying to get first place at this point. Oh no! Ooh! Oh no! I think that was just a mistake there. You really want to discard the 8-so at that point and take the YD Shunten.
Yeah, I do wonder whether there was some sort of dream, perhaps, of shifting towards a So Honitsu to try and get value. But yeah, there's no reason for that being so far away.
That could be it. I have my doubts when it gets that late in the hand that I can try and force something so big. Anyways, we move into South 4 and just looking at the game situation, Molly is going to be trying for second, and once she gets into second, she can start thinking about first. But I think she'd probably be happy just staying over 30k with how crazy this game has been so far.
Yeah, and that's where being so close to 30k as final dealer is kind of scary. Most sumos, or not most, there's several sumos that could bring you below 30k. So you probably want to win a hand before you start thinking about a tactical no 10 at exhaustive. And maybe that might be why Molly's holding on to the Dora Haku here. Doesn't want to give somebody else the value to bring her under 30k.
And she's going to have to move fast because over on the right, we see Michael already is Ishanten with the Hatu for a potential Chanta Hatsu. And now is Tenpai on the 1-so west. And it comes right out.
And that's a fine result for Molly, really.
Right. Yeah, like we were saying, she's above 30k, and it's really Scott who bites the bullet here. Really unfortunate Hansha, not much that could have been done there. And, that deal-in was from Inrichi, so you can't even blame him.
And as it stands, we have Michael, the big winner here, although lost 17k along the way, still holds on to first for a plus 39.2. That helps him out quite a bit, moves him up to fourth. And then Josh is next with a plus 21.6. Molly is in third, staying above 30k, getting the plus 1.6. That plus 0 Uma, much better than the minus 5. And then Scott, because of that incredibly unfortunate dealer Sunbaimon deal-in, does take the minus 62.4, and the minus 20 Uma on top of being negative is just really, really brutal.
Right. So it looks like Molly, as soon as these update, is going to move right up to plus point something. And Scott, unfortunately, is going to fall further into the demotion range here. Not out of it yet. There's still plenty of games to go, but that's a big hit to be taking when you're already towards the bottom. And Michael has moved up a little bit into the positives, which is great. That big win was really beneficial for his placement.
Yeah, Michael now in third, and being above 100 is very good. And they started the next game right off the bat, and the Dora is going to be the one. So Molly is our first dealer. Already has an Anko of the West. Ooh,
Oh, unfortunate
is Molly
backfire.
forcing Honitsu here?
Maybe. Unfortunately, that Dora penchant backfired immediately after she cut it. So yeah, maybe the thought is funny to now.
If
Over to the
once you discard that Dora one so and you draw in the 3-so and you have the 2-3 shape, do you still continue cutting that shape, or do you maybe cut the 4-6 first in case you're able to draw back into the efficient Ryanman?
I'm not sure at the time if she had the Hatsu, but if she had a spare tile in her hand that wasn't really doing anything, I'd probably cut that instead, because drawing back the Ryanman and even drawing back the Dora would be great for that hand. And you don't have to worry about Furitan until you're actually Tenpai, so it's beneficial to keep around those wide shapes for a while. Meanwhile, on the right, it looks like we have a chance at Itsu Kingfu with the right draws, but is Ishanten now for Richidor 1? Across the way, we get that wonderful draw of the Haku Anko and move into a headless Ishanten. However, on the left, we have the Richi. It looks like a Richi Pinfu on a 1-4 pin weight, which there are only 3 taken up right now, 5 in the wall. Could get the Ipatsu really easily here, but misses.
Yeah, that 4-peen. We'll see how Molly shifts this hand and how much she's willing to fight. Oh, here's the Ricci from across the table is Michael now. That is going to be waiting on the 7-mon.
7-mon is Genbutsu. However, one of them is locked in Molly's hand and one is just in Scott's hand.
Oh, that's an excellent draw for Molly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she kind of Mawashi'd by using the West Anko, so while she is moving forward now, she had to move a step back to do it safely, and that 4-pin still might be coming out if she draws even better. However, with the 3-so in her discards, it seems unlikely that she'll end up pushing for too long. Still no signs of those 1-4 pins, despite 6 being in the wall.
Oh, there's the 7-mon though, and since it was Genbutsu and it became Suji after that last discard, that is going to be a 2600 hit.
Yeah, that's just really unfortunate. 6, 1-4 pin left in the wall for that pin to better weight, and none came out. Instead, the hand that could have damaged but Richi'd and chased waiting on the Genbutsu wins there. So sometimes that the psychological weights are better than the statistical weights.
And so now Michael once again starting off with the lead, although was not dealer this time, so we move on to Joshua's dealership. And the West is our first Dora.
So if you're looking at Joshua's hand, you're probably thinking of, trying to shift it to Pinfu somehow. Although I don't think you'd be too unhappy ending up on the Shampoo, even with 1 South gone as the indicator. To the right, though, Ishanten.
Oh, that's quick and looks. Is that guaranteed to end up on our Yanman way?
Yeah, that is the case. You end up on either the 6-9 Yanman or the 3-6-so Yanman, depending on which one fills first. And just from a perspective of what you want to fill first, you want the 3-6-so Yanman to fill first because the 6-9 Yanman is that much better to wait on. Especially early on, if people don't have safe tiles to you, they're more likely to push a 9 than a 3 or a 6. And we get the Anko.
And Molly on the left drew in a 2-peen and discarded away from that 3-5-7 Ryankan. And now draws the 2-mon, which I imagine. All right, and now the 2-peen goes away, holding on to the 2-mon. So what's Molly thinking here with these discards?
So I think despite being Furitan on the 1-mon, Molly has seen the Sanshoku now in the 1-2-3 Sanshoku chance. And is probably willing to hold on to it a little bit. And if she doesn't manage to draw the 1-mon or the 1-so, it's probably just going to take the Kanchan Richi, which is Nakasuji.
Well, actually, you could get a 1-2-3 or a 2-3-4 Sanshoku, according to how you got there. Oh, the deal in 3 just came in and immediately deals into Michael.
And that's the danger of cutting tiles near the Riichi tile. You see the 5-so cut that late, and you have to think that they probably had something around that, and if that shape didn't complete, then the 3-6-so and the 4-7-so become a little bit more dangerous. Regardless, we do move on to the next hand, and this is Michael's dealership, now growing his lead.
Yeah, and
Dora,
just drew the pair of easts.
right, you love to see it as dealer. Just being able to pawn with 2 points immediately and having that freedom to call from everyone is really, really powerful. And it looks like one of the easts is isolated in Joshua's hands for now. However, on the right, we do have a quick pull into Ishanten for Hakunomi with Ryanmen, Shampon, perfect Ishanten.
I wonder, if you draw the 4-peen or the 5-peen, are you switching to the Toy as Scott?
It's really tempting, especially since you're so far behind in points, just overall. Every point is going to count here. However, it is a tough call efficiency-wise.
Oh, there's the Tempai for Michael, waiting on the 1-mon and 4-mon.
I think if you're Scott, you'd be happier just kind of being able to pawn those tiles first. However, on this Dora draw, Scott does decide to keep it around and try and greed for a better shape, and unfortunately might deal in here regardless of his choices before. So double tone for 2,900.
And Michael is the only player to win a hand so far, has won every single hand as we enter repeat 1 of East 3.
And I believe this is the first repeat, right? Yeah, just because
he won the first repeat because this is the first time Michael has been dealer. So no one else has been able to repeat on Michael's wins other than Michael.
Perhaps, luckily for the other players, Michael's hand right now, while it does have all its shape, has very little potential value and kind of just bad shapes overall, is likely to end up on a Richinomi Kanchan. And we have the East pawn to the right from Scott, who has a lot better shapes than that call ability, and the call ability just so important because your bad shapes just disappear when you can take them from your Kami-chan.
Oh, that 5-so draw for Joshua on the left now has pretty good chance of Itsu.
And now Michael has improved some of his shapes as well, and has just filled the hardest shape to fill.
I feel like you summoned that 3-so by saying that.
I don't think Michael needs any more luck after that last Kanchan. He should give some of the stuff back to the others. Oh, well, there's the Kanchan backfire. I was going to say as him, I would have probably cut the 1-so first from the 2, 4, 6, 8. And we see a call from Scott, a desperate call that Ryanmen moves into Kanchan, Ryanmen, Ishanten, but only for East.
We do have 2 of the Dora Hatsu have been cut, but Molly's still holding on to it across the table.
Yeah, maybe waiting for Tenpai and just keeping it as a safe tile. And you say keeping the door as a safe tile, right? That's ridiculous. But, you know, with it being twice cut, it's just really hard to use. And now it takes that weird 1-4-pin Chun, which looks really nice.
Yeah, the 1-peen, however, is dead. Oh, there's the chase from the dealer, now waiting on the 2-peen and 5-peen. That is Tanyao. Oh, but the sumo!
You hate to see it. Your Riichi stick goes out, you're all smug, and then the sumo comes right in and you paid out for nothing.
Yeah, that 1,000 points goes straight into Molly's coffers. Michael's still in first, though.
Oh, wow.
Scott with 7 unique terminals and honors here.
And this is like most definitely not the hand where you want to go for Kokushi, but you might go for Honitsu here. Yeah, you can definitely go for Honitsu. Though that Ryanmen and the Manzu is going to be hard to give up until you form some better shapes elsewhere.
Especially since it incorporates the Dora 1-mon, and that might be why Scott is discarding these guest wins to start off.
Right. Just going efficiently, trying to keep the dealership around is often a great plan. Over to the left, we do have the Yakuhai pair, and it looks like an Ishanten now can pawn the Haku and end up on a 4-7 pin weight. Though, if you draw the 4-7 pin, you kind of have a sad chomp one because you have 3 of those 3 pin already. However, will this call be made? It does take the call, yeah. You don't risk ending up on a bad weight like this, and you move things along.
And the 4-7 pin is kind of interesting in Scott's hand.
Oh,
Probably not coming out. Oh, there's a con! And then a Ricci!
And does get extra draw as well with a 5, so. And this is a 3-6-9 mon weight. So it's 3-6-9 mon versus 4-7 pin.
And that's Ricci Dora 3, since there are 2 1-mon in the hand as well.
Ooh, Michael making these tough pushes here, but doesn't really have a lot of a choice. Could cut the 1-2 pin, but you know, pushing there pays off and manages to quash it.
And gets back above 40k, although we are into Molly's dealership now.
So aside from Toyman, none of these hands are really jumping out to me too much. Dealer does have good men-thumping chances. Over to the right, a lot of work to be done with the shapes. Similarly to the left, you have the shapes, but not much value. But Toyman has the potential to just pawn Chi Ron. It's a really fast hand.
We do, how many, okay, there's only 4 pairs in Molly's hand right now. This looks a lot more likely to be a normal hand than a Chi toy, though. What do you think, Eric?
Oh yeah, definitely a normal hand. You're hoping to draw something like the 3-6 mon and get the Ipeiko, and now that you're Ishunten, you're probably just, yeah, cutting away the 2 pin, the 8, so.
If you draw the 3-mon or the 6-mon, do you consider dominating and trying to slide down for more value, or do you just insta-Ricci?
I think as dealer, and just in general, when you have a Pinfu with a chance of another Yaku, you just go for the Ricci. I know some players that would definitely hold out because, you know, Ricci Pinfu isn't a lot, but as dealer, and with a chance to get Ura, Ipatsu, and Sumo, yeah, you just go for it.
We did get the South Pawn that you were talking about from Michael.
And is now an Atozuka Ishanten. It's a bit unfortunate because one of the tones is already out.
We are in the South round, so it's not Atozuka.
Yes.
It can win on the 5-mon or the 8-mon now.
I completely let that slip my mind. It's been going so fast this game compared to the last one.
Although we see there's only one 5-mon left in the wall. All of the 8-mon are either discarded or in Scott's hand on the left, and we see 3 5-mon in Molly and Joshua's hands.
And I think other than Josh drawing the 5-mon, I don't think it would come out from any of the other players. Though now it might come out from Scott since he got rid of that 6-mon, and he does have the potential for 8 and 4-7-mon in his discards. However, that's only one tile to worry about. Can definitely bet that Scott would con the 8-mon upon drawing it. Oh, sorry, the 8-mon is just in the discards already. And, so we see Molly take the Chi.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if. I mean, this is a worse Ishanten than Molly had before. I wonder if there's a sense of you've been Ishanten for such a long period of time and you haven't been drawing it, that you've just kind of given up on drawing your tile and you're taking a worse Ishanten calling, counting on players' discards instead of hoping for something that doesn't seem to come on its own.
And I think if your goal is to just go for K10, then you should just take the Chi into K10 with no Yaku, rather than kind of dismantling it to try and go for a half-hearted, like, Tanyao Nomi this way.
Oh, and then we have the late Ricci from Scott, who immediately gets the 9-so from Joshua. So that is going to be Ricci Ipatsu. Although no other Yaku, since we won on the Yasume, did not get Tanyao.
However, he does pick up that Ricci stick. Oh, sorry, that's just his own Ricci stick.
I mean, but he still did pick it up. So that is still true. You were not wrong.
Better to pick it up than lose it. Anyway, we move into South 2, Joshua's dealership. And now Josh was in trouble with 18,500, has to make something out of this dealership, and it looks like this hand could be an easy Honitsu. Decides to drop the 5 pin even though it can attach to the Dora 7 pin. Maybe thinking of Chanta with that 9 mon.
Molly calling the 7-8-9 so is perhaps forcing a Chanta as well, although doesn't necessarily have to if she's able to pick up a pawn on the north.
Across the way, we do see a potential Itsu Dora 1 brewing, though it definitely is not the fastest hand here in terms of speed. And then to the right, we have a Dora 2 hand, which you'd like to shift into Tanyao if possible. However, now with this Chun draw, you might be thinking of dropping the north, or I guess the Chun also. In general, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. You might be answering the question I was going to ask.
I was just going to say, in general, the north is going to be a little safer later on. However, because neither of them have come in, you kind of have these weird terminal calls from your Toyman who is north. It's not really as safe as it might seem normally.
Do you think that's why the north was held onto? I mean, they're both Yakuhai, so Molly could have either if she's in some sort of Otozuke, but...
Right, and the difference here is, of course, that the north is Yakuhai only to one player, so if you end up dealing in with it later to someone else, it's not going to be as many points on average.
We do see it come out, though, and Molly grabs it, has 4 disconnected tiles right now, though, so, you know, needs a little bit of help.
It's pretty rare to see 3 calls and then just still have the hand be that disjointed. However, it is pretty easy to get into Ishan here, because you just stick anything to any of those tiles. Unfortunately, a lot of the tiles around the 3 pin are already gone, so you might even see that cut.
Yeah, and across the table... Oh, well, we have a Ricci on the right, so let's focus on that first. What do they have over there?
So it looks like they have a Reach Dora 2 E Peiko, and this is Michael going for the greed. Chooses not to Dama here, aiming for Mangun instead.
And there are only 2 8-pin left, and they are both in the wall.
And you're hoping, I guess, if people keep tossing the 6 pin trying to defend against you, that the 8 pin becomes one chance. Though, of course, with it being near the Dora, there's plenty of potential to be on a Kanchan. So it is a bit unusual, of course, to turn down the Ryanmen with the 6-7 pin right on just the 8 pin.
Oh, wow. Look at Scott. How far away is Scott across the table?
I believe Scott is Ishan 10. Though would need to fill in a Penchan or a Kanchan.
Oh, this is this is Tempai for Joshua.
Could chase on the 1-4 so weight.
Oh, but takes the 7 so weight instead.
And does Tsuji trap it. However, there's only a single one left because you can see the 7, and we see the Hadaka Tanki call from Mali here. Very ambitious. Waiting on that 9 so Tsuji. Unfortunately, this deals in.
Oh, we had Jimitsu Tempai on top of perhaps other Yaku. Can't quite read it fast enough. Oh, and 2 Ura! That's going to give Michael the Hanuman and is back over 50k for the second game in a row. And Scott, once again, is the person who eats it.
That's disgusting. You have your nice Tempai. I believe it was just the 4-7 mon weight. You have Chunisu. Of course you want to go for it, but because that Dora stayed around so long and it was in a good shape, it just ended up being his doom. So yeah, once again, Michael takes a decent lead here and is looking to hold this first. However, unlike last time, Molly is the person in second place. And it's actually Scott and Joshua who are going to be fighting and are really close to each other. So there'll be a tense 2 plans between the two of them. I don't know if Scott is at an advantage or a disadvantage being the dealer next because, you know, he can get more points, but he also eats more from the Oyakaburi, the dealer penalty.
Oh, is that what Kaburi means? People say that all the time. But I've never really cognized what the actual meaning of the word is.
Yeah, Kaburi is just short for Oyakaburi, which is the penalty you pay upon a sumo from another player. You pay usually twice as much as everyone else.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so sometimes your strategy as dealer, if you have a large lead, is to just let it pass and try and avoid giving people more and more chances to hit you with those big hands, even on a sumo.
We do have here Michael with this big lead. This hand is still two away.
Decides not to keep the two kind of bad shapes supported by pairs in lieu of keeping the three, so maybe thinking about Itsu. So now maybe gonna get rid of it. No, decides not to get rid of it. Just swaps out the pair for the one that's more live. And Suji trap potential.
Well, it could also perhaps shift that so shape down into Tanya according to what order you draw your tiles in. But I imagine any more so tiles drawn would, like you said, be a move towards Itsu. We do have the Chun in Molly's hand across the table. Oh, what's that?
And that's a 4/7 Sorichi with 4 out, so there's 4 left in the wall. And it comes out on the Ipatsu from the best player for Scott to hit. Wow, we've seen no holds barred here, people pushing up the wazoo. And as you can see, sometimes works out and sometimes you pay out a Mungun.
And now, if you're Scott, you can pretty easily get above 30k, and if you get above 30k, you're almost assured to pass Molly.
Right, and this is a nice starting hand. You have access to good shapes. You can use the door easily. You formed a second encore right there. I mean, oh, and then we see a call of the Haku for a hand that looks like it could end on Haku Nomi from Toyman. So Joshua is probably going to have to force some value here in order to get back after that call.
I do wonder if there's almost a sense of psyching to it. Like maybe you're trying to slow down other people's hands, make them think that you have Dora, hope they don't have it, like Scott does here.
Yeah,
Oh, but tosses it out.
Yeah, that's just a mistake. I think you just toss out the 5 so pair, and you're never going to end up on the Sean point. And now you've had to toss 2 Dora on your Tenpai. You just ate your way away from an easy Mangan chance.
I mean, and instead, well, and doesn't even take the Ryanman way, takes the Kanchan on the 6 peen. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here.
I'm guessing probably just didn't realize what the Dora is ahead of time and then went one forward and was like, oh shoot, that was the Dora, right? And now has to take the Kanchan if he wants to use the Dora at all. And unfortunately, that's just a worse shape. If he had tossed the 5 so instead he'd have both Dora and he'd have a better weight as well.
Well, and now on the left, we have Ricci from first place Michael chasing the dealer and is waiting on the Dora 5 peen as well as the Genbutsu 8 peen.
Now, if I was Michael here, I'd just be taking the Dama because no one's going to want to toss the 5 pin Dora anymore. Right? And even the 8 pin isn't safe for a similar reason. You can Dama this for Pinku and kind of just pick off the win as fast as you can with no risk. Still gets it though.
Anyway, from Joshua.
Joshua just out of nowhere because of that Ipatsu deal and takes a big 4th here.
And Michael with actually a better first this time, surprisingly, than last round. Gets plus 41.6, which almost gets Michael into second. Molly with another modest positive, a plus 8.3, making good movement up the standings. Scott with a minus 12.4. Definitely not as bad as last round, but you really wanted to be positive to start making up the ground you lost. And Joshua, unfortunately, with that big hit, is now minus 37.5.
And it looks like Joshua is probably going to fall into 11th place like that.
Yes. If my mental math works, which I don't know, math isn't my strong suit, but I think you're correct there. It does look like we're going to be immediately hopping into the A2 game already in process. This is going to be Gina, Luce, Andre, and Claire.
So I don't know about Luce, but all the other players are people who I've played with in person or are in the club that I help run in New York City. So I'm kind of familiar with some of their play styles and the things they might be thinking about. It looks like we are in East 3, and it is Hanim Andre's dealership. And that would be Andre here.
Yeah, it's just too much fun to say Hanamandre.
It
Like,
really
I
is.
can't pass up on the opportunity to say it every time the opportunity comes up.
And it looks like he has a good two Shanten that can go for Pinfui Peiko Dora too. And the screen has appeared to freeze for me at least. Oh, and
Yes, it
there it
froze for
goes.
me as well, although we're back up here.
Has moved into Ishanten in the meanwhile.
Well, and it looks like both Toyman, so Gina across the table and Luce on the left, both have good hands.
And I wonder, in first
Yeet.
place, if you... Oh, I was just about to ask if you'd reach or not, but it seems like he's going right forward with the Richi on the Dora Kanchan, with only one left in the wall.
I mean, this puts a lot of pressure on the other players. You force people to either use the Dora or give it to you. And Luce does not keep the Anko of Chun, is keeping the Chun as the pair throughout.
Yeah.
Perhaps, it is safe, confirmed safety there.
Well, I guess at the time he dealt it, was it safe? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, when Luce dealt it, Gina had discarded it beforehand. So they were confirmed to have safety there, and is in fact tossing away the entire Anko.
Right. So what I was going to ask earlier is whether you take the Richi on the Dora... Oh, okay, never mind. Nothing to talk about. It was the right choice.
Yeah, personally I don't, because it's not my style, but Andre getting the 2 Ura, which pushes this to a dealer Hanuman, and as soon as we join the table, fireworks go off. I feel like maybe we're bad luck for 75% of the players most of the time here.
Right, this is almost deja vu of the point situation from the first game. Though Gina is a little further ahead than Scott was at this point. And that's because the other two players, Luce and Claire, have taken hits.
Yeah, and of course everyone pays in evenly to the dealer Hanuman. The 6,300 all, or 6,100 rather, sorry, because of the Homba. Hanamandre has one of the Dora 5-so in hand, so could create something valuable here, although the hand looks kind of slow to me.
Right, yeah. And it's not one of those hands where you can easily call unless you pair up one of the Yakuhai and toss something like the Tuso.
Oh, you don't want to toss the
Now,
Tuso now, though.
cuts the Yakuhai, keeps the 6-pin around a little longer, aiming for the shape upgrades, and gets it. And just because we didn't really talk about this when we came in mid-game, Andre, Luce, and Gina are all in the top 5, with Andre in second, Luce in fourth, and Gina in fifth. And Claire is unfortunately in dead last right now, so I wonder how their playstyles are going to be different accounting for that.
Claire has made up a ton of ground over the past couple weeks, though, and went from being pretty alone in last place to now can definitely catch the rest of us who are in the devotion range for A2 pretty easily. And I say the rest of us because I am also in that devotion range.
We do see a move to Ishanten from dealer here. Kanchan Ryankan Ishanten with Dora 2. Maybe deciding whether to take the preemptive Suji trap on the 6-pin and keep the Chun since it's a little safer being twice dropped. But yeah, just going for straight efficiency as dealer.
When you say take the preemptive Suji trap, do you mean discarding the 6-pin and setting up a Suji trap waiting on the 3-pin?
Yeah, and I think the idea there would be, yeah, the Suji trap, you see one of the 5-pin out already, and then the Chun is just safe, and you're in a position point-wise where you don't really care if your dealership moves on, so you might want to play for the defense. However, the best way to not pay out points is just win your hand first, so going for the efficiency seemed like a fine move there.
Player now Tempai.
And this is
Takes
going
the
to be...
4-7 weight.
And it looks like there's 4 left on the wall, and this is going to be a Tanya Nomi. However, you can con 7-mon, and that would make Andre really upset.
Ooh, but it comes out of Gina's hand before that can happen.
And it's the cheap 1600 with the 2 Homba. We move into East 4, Claire's dealership. Always feels good to move into your dealership right after a win.
Try and carry some of that mysterious flow that people are always talking about.
Absolutely. So it looks like the door is the tune, and there's only one, and it is in Luce's hand across the way, which is pretty disjointed.
Yeah,
And
Gina calling the first tile on the table, getting the Hatsu immediately.
And now her hand is disjointed as well, but it has Yaku now, and so whatever shape she forms, she can just call off and go as fast as she can. It's not really the value that she's looking for yet. However, she could potentially force a Honitsu or a Chanta in here. Claire is going to have to choose whether to keep 6 blocks or to shave one down now.
What would you choose?
Uh, this is tricky. I probably agree, yeah. Just moving to the Champon there, and then, you can cut the 9 mon later and move for Tanya.
Oh, so
And
thinking the eventual cut of the 9 mon, I see.
right, and one of the reasons you don't cut it immediately, or at least until another pair is formed, is that you can still go for the 2-3-4 Sanshoko, I think. I think that's the logic between cutting the 8 mon first instead of the 9 mon. Because then that 2 mon pair can be mobilized. You can cut one of them without worrying about losing your pair. Of course, these are really far away considerations, and they're probably not going to happen.
Oh, what does Hanamandre have on the left? That hand looks interesting.
It looks like a Ishanten hand with a 3-5-5-6-6 pin shape, which can either fill as a Champon or a Kanchan. Decides not to keep the 1 pin and upgrade to the Ryankan, which would slightly increase the chances at Pinfu. However, the efficiency, I believe, is the same, and you have the chance to into Ipeiko, depending on your draws. And we have a great draw here for Clara's dealer, who is now Ishanten with Ranmin for Richi Pinfu. However,
Meanwhile,
it's Gina who has the first. Oh, and it
oh,
deals
but is
in.
going to get it from Hanamandre.
And we see a Chanta Yakuhai for 2,000 points, making back what she just lost in Benson.
And as you said, it's nice to enter your dealership on a win, and Gina needs it. This is Gina's last dealership and is starting it pretty far behind here. Although not that far behind Luce in third.
So this is an interesting starting hand because it's pretty disjointed, but you have what I like to call the triple Yakuhai. And I treat that as one block for the hand, because if you draw either the east, the south, or the green, then your hand is greatly mobilized. It can start crawling.
So compared to the rest of the blocks in the hand, what would you get rid of first?
Well, at this point, I get rid of the south, just get this double south out of the way. Just because that 4 pin is really good to keep around, and you don't really have any other floaters that you can easily get rid of without impacting the efficiency of this hand. So Gina probably just going for straight efficiency, going for Ricci now.
And then Luce on the right obviously calls that double south. Would you push Honitsu with Luce's hand?
If I get the 2 pin, maybe. Sorry, no, I was going to say if I get the Haku or I get another Pinzu first, then maybe. Like now, yeah, definitely. Oh, decides to take the better Ishanten. I think cutting the Haku there or cutting the 2-mon would be fine too. But, oh, sorry. I take it all back. The 2-mon is the door.
Oh
Absolutely
my
not.
god, you're right. I did not notice that either.
Yeah, no, you never consider an open Honitsu there because it's worth the same as your 2-mon and it's worse efficiency-wise. So we have a
So,
nice 2-5-8 sumo immediately for the Mangan.
and that actually gets Luce above 30K.
Gina's dealership gone in a flash and has to pay the 4K out for it. Has to hurt. Nothing
Yeah,
much you could have done there.
yeah, you went from having a very achievable path to at least third place to now being 15K behind and really got to do some work. Even a Hanuman Sumo would not quite be enough.
So dealer's hand here with the Dora's East, it would be nice to draw it, but it's once dropped already and it's hard to work in other than as a pair. Instead, probably just looking for a Riichi here. It's just bad shapes all around, though. Maybe now you take the 2-mon Kanchan for Richinomi, but you have the Suji trap. And you're just hoping to draw into upgrades before that happens. On the right, we have 3 pairs in Namandre's hand, but also just no value, kind of meh shapes, nothing much to write home about. Across the way, we have probably the most interesting hand so far, which has the potential for for Pinfu Ipeiko if you get the 3-so Kanchan first. Sorry, the Penchan. And to the left, in Gina's hand, we have Anko's pairing. She has 2 4-pin pairs. I wonder if she will consider the Sanshoku Doko if she draws the 4-mon. So like something like Sanshoku Doko Toy Toy, you have to get a little bit desperate here and aim for Mangan. But it's Claire that moves into Ishan first.
And thinks about it, but ends up dropping the Dora East, which is fine. Nobody's holding on to a pair.
Right, and just looking at the board, while the East is safe against one player and you can sort of greed for it, trying to go into a second or even first place, that 1-so is just that much safer, both being safe to the dealer and your own Shimocha and being 1 chance to the other player. However, it does take the upgrade here, leaving even upgrade pass to Suanko.
Which would be which would, I think, steal first.
Oh, absolutely. Though unfortunately, those 5-so are already gone. And we see 2 of the 6, 7 pins, so it's unlikely to happen. Probably just going to get that Riichi first for Tanyao Ipeiko.
And there it is.
So if Claire gets the 5-mon here, she will get the Ipeiko, but other than that, it's going to be Riichi, Tanyao. And we see 5 of them, which means there's 3 left in the wall. The dealer's going to chase on the 5, 8-so, 4-so weight, of which there are, I think, 2 left, maybe 1 left.
Yeah, there's 1 8-so left. We can see 1 4-so in the discards, 1 in Gina's hand, and then we see 2 when we see all the 5-so. So the only thing left in the wall is the 8-so. All of the 5-so are in hands, and the same is true of the 4-so.
Right. Oh, wow.
No.
And yet again, the weight that's less likely to win comes out first.
And comes out of someone's hand who is called Riichi and can't do anything about it. In fact, was the first person to call Riichi.
And this is absolutely the best case scenario because you push yourself over 30k and you push your enemy further away at the same time.
And this is also good for Gina, who can now get a Mangan Sumo would tie Gina. No, a Mangan Sumo would put Gina 100 points ahead of Claire.
Looking at these starting hands, the dealer has some hard to complete penchants, could shift to 7, 8, 9 Sanshoku, but does have that Yakuhai pair and can now pick up the door with that 4-mon draw and form a Ryanmen as opposed to just the Kanchan from before. To the right, we have very Pinfu-like vibes, could pick up either the Yakuhai, hoping for the double south even with 1 dropped already. Across the way, we see Claire has 2 pairs, and the potential to pick up the Dora, but no real Yaku in sight yet. And then to the left with Gina's hand, we're seeing something that could be a Chanta shove. Maybe Chanta Pinfu Sanshoku Dora 1 at the very best. But you'd have to get some miracle draws to make that work. And then here down at... Oh, sorry. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Lou's kind of hedging here, kind of keeping the Chanta or at least the Sanshoku alive, but not yet willing to throw away the nice 4 or 5-mon shape. We'll see if that changes if a 7 comes into hand, which it does.
And I think you might, because while it's worse efficiency-wise and you're not guaranteed it, you could even call the 1-so now. It would be, I think, a lot less controversial if the 3-mon wasn't the door, because giving up this Ryanmen is painful upon trying that 3-mon. And of course, you can't get Pinfu, a double-sided weight is always great with the Riichi. But being able to call the 1-so is a benefit.
Yeah, or the 7-mon.
Another interesting choice there, whether to keep the 5-so or not, and maybe be able to shift that penchant into a 5-6-0 Ryanman and go for Itsu, but you already see one of the 6-0s in your own discards. And now we see shaving off that extra 8-pin to keep the safe Haku, which is twice dropped. Interesting call from Andre here, forcing the 1-2-3 Sanshoku. Unfortunately, draws the wrong side and deals in.
That is Sanshoku only, though.
Yeah. However, it is off of the best spot from loose to hit.
It's only 14k behind now.
Could easily make that up with a single hand as dealer, and with this Dora, if he pairs it up, that would be the way to do it.
There has another awkward hand of shapes here.
Any of the other hands standing out that much? Maybe Andres with the Sha Anko, but Claire's is probably the one with the most value potential if she goes for Shinizu. And
I mean,
yeah,
is Churin dead yet?
is it? It is dead, unfortunately, from what we can see. From her perspective, absolutely not. But we see the other 3 1-sos, so we know that it's dead. And there's no way, of course, that you can call into it, since Churin is closed only. It does seem like she moved into 2 Shanten now. Could even get Shinizu Chitoi with the right draws.
Ooh.
Though now, yeah, probably just going to take whatever Shinizu she can get first. Could get Shinizu Sananko. Could get Suanko on the perfect draws. So I think you reach Tenpai if you draw the 9-so and the 4-so. So I believe 4-so and 6-9-so, as well as 5-so puts them in Tenpai.
Loose getting the pairing holds on to the Dora Haku the entire round and ends up drawing the second one. And this, I will say, is my experience from having played against Loose. Loose is very, very good at patiently awaiting value, and we've seen a few times already this Hanchan that we entered late that pay off.
We see Tenpai across the way, 7-so Penchan, or Menchin, with upgrades to Suanko on the 8-so, 9-so, and 4-so draws.
Would that be Chinitsu Ipeko?
Oh yes, Shinizu Ipeko, my bad. So yeah, we're looking at a Baimon Sumo. Did pause a bit on the 9-so, deciding whether to take the Toy as well, but in the end you only roll up 1 Han because you lose the 6 Han from the closed Chinitsu for 5 Han, and only gain 2 from Toy.
But you could potentially go up 8 because you could gain 2 from Toy, and then if you draw the 8-so or 4-so, that would also be Sananko. So you'd be gaining 4 Han and losing 1. Oh, that's gonna kill him!
Wow.
That's massive! That's going to flip their positions.
Absolutely.
Claire getting the Hanuman hit. And now Claire's above 30k, and nope, not Gina. Gina was already below. Luce is below 30k.
And Gina actually not too happy about that, because while they did swap places, Luce is a little higher than Claire was before. Luce is now 25k, where I think Claire was closer to 20k, so it's going to be harder for Gina to make a comeback.
Oh, and we already have the Haku Pon from Claire there, just trying to put together a fast hand. I guess that could become Chanta.
And we see Claire discarded the Dora on turn 1, and it's probably okay, just because it's hard to use. It's not the round wind anymore. You don't want the dealer to call it, even if they are already ahead.
Well, especially a dealer Mongon Sumo would be 4,000 all. That would drop you below 30k. So yes, you really don't want the dealer to create value.
The dealer is drawing really nice shapes here, though. Andre has this beautiful Ryanman 3 Shanten, I think.
I really liked the cadence of as you said that, Eric. Ryanman.
It felt like a tongue twister. I was like, oh no, I'm going to say the last one wrong, aren't I? Somehow got through it. So yeah, now we have the 2 Shanten.
And draws another 6 so now this is well, is this Ishanten?
It shouldn't be yet. Still 2 Shanten, but now you have the Ipeiko chance. Does decide.
Take Tanyo.
The trouble here is if you end up on the 147, so you can have the Atozuke, but with 2 of them visible now, you're not too worried about that.
Oh, now we have the Ricci from Luz, who has Ricci Pinfu waiting on the 1-so and 4-so.
And wow, that 2-pin comes right out. And yeah, it is 1 chance, but it is near the Ricci tile. So if they had something like 2-3-3-pin and cut it on, sorry, 3-3-4-pin and cut it, then that might have just dealt in on the Ipatsu. However, the 1 chance was a good thing to shove compared to the Chun, which was not dropped at all, I don't think.
And Gina having to push, being in last place, unfortunately, Gina gets hit with the Ipatsu and is now about 4,000 lower.
So Gina overall is going to be needing kind of a Baimon class hand.
Yeah, it's 22k behind. It would be Baimon Sumo to get past Luz. Or no, Baimon Sumo would not be enough, because that would only be a 20k gain.
But you can get a Hanuman Ron. So I think that's going to have to be the goal here.
On the other hand, though, Claire with a very good hand in this all-ass dealership.
She is keeping that lone Dora for a while, still has to make a pair, and that would be the greatest thing to draw.
Can you draw into the Dora pair and still push for the Pin Itsu?
Well, I guess the answer is we won't find out, because she just goes for the Itsu as is, keeps those good shapes around. And because you have the 3-4-5-5, you're not too worried about finding a pair because you kind of have that combined pair in Ryanman shape. Though with a 5-mon twice cut now and the 2-mon once cut and 2 in your hand, it's looking a little bit worse.
Ooh. Is now Ishanten for the Itsu.
Right. And you're sad if you draw the 2-pin just because you get Rishi Pinfu on a weight that's pretty deadened at this point. But if you draw the 2-5-mon or you draw the 3-pin, you're really happy. Or even just the 5-pin straight out. But we see Hanamandre going for that quick win here. Takes the 2-pin temp.
You could see the 5-pin here.
And I think as Claire, I might, just because these are going to be hard shapes to fill. The 2-5-mon is mostly dead already. And you have a guaranteed Yaku, and you just go for the repeat.
Yeah, and that actually helps Claire. Well, Claire was probably never going to deal that 2-pin into Hanamandre.
Gina here,
drawn.
Having completely forgotten, both players in 3rd and 4th places are going for Honitsu in the same suit. So it'll be interesting to see if they overflow into each other. Unfortunately, it is Luce that has the advantage because he doesn't have to worry about feeding Gina cheese, and he is now Tenpai first on the 5-8-so. With a hand that can easily move him into 2nd place. And I think you just have to drop the 6-so here and keep the Dora.
Yeah, waiting on 5-8.
So this is a Mangan. And unfortunately, it might come out from Gina, especially if she goes the Toy route.
Yeah, and regardless of how that hand is won for Luce, that would, well, it would put them in 2nd either way.
Oh, wow. And you take it? Yeah, you get the 2nd.
Yeah, you get 2nd. So it does not, 3 people being above 30k doesn't actually affect the person in 2nd at all, because you get +5 regardless. So it is going with Andre dealing in there. The lead gets chipped down to plus 28.5, which is still a perfectly good result for him. That will put him in first. Luce gets the plus 11.9, which is going to put Luce just a little bit further ahead, especially since Gina took last year. I almost said Thursday. Claire is in third with the plus 3.2, the nice positive third, being above 30K. But unfortunately, Gina taking the minus 43.6, which drops Gina all the way down into what, 11th?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
no,
so.
maybe
We'll
just
see in a second. But yeah,
yeah.
I was going to say one of the things about Luce's win there is that they managed not only to chip away at Andre's lead, but also turning it into a B top situation where from B top to A top, where you went from two people floating to people floating, also took away some from the UMA, I believe. And with Andre being right above Luce, that was a great thing for them in the long run.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I have a couple games that I have to play here in about 20 minutes. So I am going to step out of the booth. Taking over for me will be none other than our fearless leader Edwin. Thank you very much for being willing to step in for me, Edwin. Eric, thank you for commentating with me. I hope you enjoy continuing. And Nathaniel, our broadcast director tonight, thank you for broadcasting. I will see y'all later. Have a good one, everybody.
And good night.
All right, take care, Tucker. So yeah, I'm here to fill in for the last game here in this set. I'm not actually sure how much we'll be going out further than this, but at least I'll be able to cover the last game here. So hello, everybody.
Well, I haven't been keeping up with the Twitch chat. I should probably pop that out right now before we go any further. And it looks like we are about to start this second game.
Yeah, what was interesting in watching that last one, just while I was waiting to hop on here with you guys, I was actually surprised that Luce had actually paid into that Chinitsu. Luce is from our club, and he has had experience playing against some of us who do go for those types of hands. So I was a little surprised she ended up paying into that, but it looks like in the end it didn't hurt her that much.
Right, and I just want to apologize for the previous commentary. I believe I was calling Luce he, and I had no clue. I only know the other three players, so that was my bad on not doing my research ahead of time.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, it's not a really a common name, so understandable.
All right, so it looks like we start this second game with Andre as the dealer. The door is the 6-0, and Andre's hand does have a 6-0. Could probably swap that out for one of the penchants and go for Riichi Pinfudo R1.
Yeah, but I mean, you're looking at. Well, actually, wait a minute. Yeah, Luce is Ishan 10 as well. With the Dora, could possibly end up in some type of Pinfu as well, depending upon what they. Like I said, they just ended up in. Oh, so no, it wasn't a Pinfu. They do have a Shanpon weight instead, but they did get their Tenpai.
Right, but the West weight, especially this early, is really powerful. So I think we can expect her to win this hand pretty easily the second someone draws one of the Wests, especially now that Claire is Tenpai. It is an Amizuke weight, though.
Right, but again, the South, you expect that to come out as well, depending upon. So it's really just a race to who gets whatever the tile that they need, really.
And now Andre moving into Tushanten. And Claire has been able to get away with dropping relatively safe tiles so far against this Riichi.
I'm a little surprised that Andre didn't discard that 9-pin because, I mean, Luce had discarded the 6-pin. Were they just a little worried about that? I'm not sure.
I guess, yeah, the thought is just to not take any risk at all. Throw the tune, which you know has just passed and is twice dropped over the 9-pin for
no! It was the turn before when they dropped the north, because they had drawn, I believe, the 3 mon. They had the pair of threes, pair of fives, the 3 norths, could have dropped the 9 pin, opted not to, discard the north instead.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure.
No.
Well, Andre did get a relatively large score in the previous game, so maybe just trying to stay safe in second. But we see that Claire does take the win there for her south end. South door 1. And we move into Claire's dealership. Looks like she has an okay 2 Shanten hand with 1 door in there, maybe even able to shift it to Tanya, depending on the draws, and seems to be hedging that. Still keeps a 9-mon around in case something binds to the 6-mon like a second Dora. Over to the right, we have a Ishanten already for Richi Ipeiko Dora 1.
Yeah, actually,
And
if you look around the table, I think the only person whose hand is not really fast at all, and even theirs with a couple draws could still be maze coming out of it, would be Andre. I think everybody else has pretty decent shapes and could get to Tempai fairly quickly.
right. And while Toyman Loose doesn't have a lot of, completed shapes in her hand, that Yakuhai helps out quite a lot. Especially
Yeah.
since it's her seat wind, which
Oh.
other people can't use easily and will probably drop. And Andre, while Andre might be a little slower right now, like you said, with the right draws, just moves right up there with the rest of them with really good shapes and a chance for Itsu and even Pinfu. Though with for Yakuhai chances, that's probably not going to happen. It seems like there was a little bit of a jump in my stream, but Claire has moved
Same
into
here,
Tenpai
yeah.
now. And Gina dodges the deal in there, keeping the Forso. So
I
Claire's
think that they may be opting to see whether or not that Forso ends up becoming like a pair, because they could have an Ipeiko chance with that 4-4-5-6-6-6 shape.
Unfortunately, that 3-mon does backfire. However, that ends up saving Gina the deal in. And yeah, like you said, drawing the Forso pair would be great. You might even consider keeping the Sanmenchan if you draw the 5-so. So of course you lessen your Ipeiko chances like that.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying that, like, I think maybe the reason why they didn't discard the 4 offhand was because they realized they might need a pair somewhere, and the 3, I don't, I'm not quite sure. That's kind of what I was thinking there at the time, maybe.
No, you're right, because what I didn't notice is that was 4-4-5-6-6-6, which gives a sticky Ishanten, or Kutsuki Ishanten, and because you see 3 of the 2-mon out already, that 3-mon is a lot harder to use than the 4-so is. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the right move there. So Claire here looking to draw the 4-so, but can't.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so that is interesting. They still dodge the discarding that 4-so.
Probably just reading that the Pinzu is less expensive on the table here. You barely see any of the so out at this point, and you gotta wonder if it's more dangerous.
Oh, there it goes.
Unfortunately, yeah, swaps it out and takes what is arguably a worse weight on the 7-mon since you already have one. And unfortunately, that does deal into the Tanya Dora 1 as dealer for 2,900.
Well, the other issue is that they had a 789 and they called. I mean, they didn't have a Yaku, did they?
No, there was no Yaku at that point.
So my guess is that pairing the 7s. Well, no, you would have discarded 8-9, wouldn't you?
Right. I think yeah. At that point, you want to discard the 8-9 and aim for Tanyo outright, and just keep the 4-so since it's sticky and you can attach to a lot of Tanyo style tiles.
The only other thing I can think of is that we were late. How late were we into the hand, and were they thinking about K10 instead? But
Yeah,
either way, it's unfortunate for Gina, but it's not a
Aaron
big
Light
hit.
is suggesting that it is for K10, but I think if you're K10, you just toss the 7-mon there and you play it a little bit safer.
Keep the 4-so, yeah.
Yeah, just the Sozu looked so dangerous at that point. But yeah, it was a tough call.
Well, Gina's got a hand to possibly get those points back and more. Just drew a second Dora. Still a little far away. Well, still a little far away, although are starting to draw some tiles to fill in there. What do you think about discarding that 6-pin as opposed to maybe discarding like the 9-mon or something like that? Because unfortunately, it backfires right now.
I was thinking about the 9-mon just because you can hedge both Chitoitsu and Tanyao and start to call the hand a little bit easier. But dropping the 6-pin there does seem pretty straightforward if you just look at your shapes overall. Yeah.
Oh, Andre has managed to get to Tenpai at the end of the first row. Declares Ricci, waiting for the 6-9. Nothing 6-9, so nothing spectacular here. Just Ricci, Yakuhai, pending Ura.
Right. And there are still 3 left in the wall.
Luce is playing it safe. Did draw the second west. Oh no, that didn't matter because there was already 2 out there. But it's probably bailing this hand, and doesn't matter because Andre does draw the 6.
Yeah, and Gina had just gotten Tenpai there on the 2-so 7-mon Champon with a chance for Mangan on the 2-so, but it slips right out of her fingers as Andre sumos.
So now in East 3, Gina's hand doesn't look too bad. Quite a few decent shapes. Could possibly keep the East in the tune if they want to try to see if they can get a Yakuhai to make it faster and call.
Yeah, decides to keep the Yakuhai, probably thinking that's more likely than going for the potential 1-9 Itsu and So. At this point, if you look at the hand, you're thinking, well, where's the value in the shapes? And you have to draw some other stuff to make up for it, though you can accept the Dora 3-mon. We look to the right. We kind of have a very disjointed hand at this point, though the Yakuhai does give it away to speed up, and Luce can take advantage of that. Maybe even call one of the pinchons early on and take the Otosuke if needed. Toyman, kind of slow hand here, has a chance for the 3-4-5 Sanchoku with Dora 1, but a lot of shapes need to be filled and they're not all great. And then lastly,
I'll be looking more about the 2-3-4 as opposed to the 3-4-5, really.
2-3-4 works great as well. You have options for both. And now with this second draw, you might not even have to choose for a while. And to the left, we have Claire probably has some of the best shapes out of everyone here. Though, like as we were saying, that Luce did draw into the Itsu chance, and can still pawn the Yakuhai into Ishanten, as well as accept the Dora.
Actually, Claire's Ishanten for Chitoi.
Oh yeah, she is. And looking at the table, the West looks really good.
Yeah, she's not going to get much. She's not going to get near the rally unless she gets Dora or something like that. So having an edge weight or something like that, the 5 backfires, but you wouldn't have expected to draw a second one really. So her current weights as they stand actually look pretty good at least from my point of view. And in fact, I might even wanted to. Actually, no, it's a 1 chance. I still might have even kept the South and ditched like the 3-pin or something.
Right, this light in the hand with the Chitoi, it's difficult to balance going for more efficient weights and then also trying to keep safety, because Chitoi is a hand that if you start to bail with it, you have to do it by pairs. So you take a step back, then you have to go forward, then you take a step back. But despite that, Chitoi is also really good for defense, because as soon as you get a safe tile, you get 2 of them. Looks like we have more calling across the table from Andre. Trying for that Tanya Dora 2, going into the 3rd row, possibly even just looking for the Tenpai depending on how it goes down. Really unfortunate if you draw the 1-mon here, but with 2 of them out and 2 of them in Gina's, in Luce's hand, that's an impossibility. And now we see the Ishanten. Probably still going to take just a Kanchan, of course, to guarantee the Tanya.
Yeah, yep. Although if Luce ever drops that 4-mon, that's not an issue anymore.
Absolutely not. And that would be ideal because you end up on the good weights.
Yeah, see, it seems odd for Chitoi. You think you having a 1 chance like that with the South, but you'd be surprised often that you might actually get that tile. And unfortunately, Claire would have gotten that last South, but we're late into the hand down. I'm not sure she's going to get there.
So Andre moves into a headless Ishanten and now has the option to take a 2-sided weight if he draws the 2-5, so because you can have the 5-7-7-mon shape, which accepts the 5 and the 6, as opposed to a bad Tonki on the 3-mon, for example.
And Claire had an option to possibly hedge, discard the West, and maybe even just call into some type of K10 shape. Opts not to, discards the 3-pin instead.
And it's a little difficult to go for K10 either way, just because you're going to be waiting on tiles that people are going to be hesitant to toss. And I think there was only 8 turns left at that point, so you get maybe 3 more draws.
Oh, she
get
gets
the
her
Tenpai.
at the end, but unfortunately, all the 2-pins are stuck in Gina's hand.
And unfortunately, Gina is not going to be able to keep Tenpai here, or sorry, get Tenpai at all, and loses the dealership. Though both her and Luce pay the 1,500, so the gap between them does not change. So
Starting
moving in,
hand is looking pretty good here to start.
Yeah, you have that Ipeco chance. You'd like to draw the 7-pin and the 5-pin if possible. You have chooses not to keep around the chance for 789 Sanchoku, though the double taunt makes sense to keep because the Sanchoku isn't guaranteed, and you're probably going to end up on bad shapes anyway. So,
And
so
the thing is
with
Lewis is that they're pretty straightforward when it comes to their play. There might have been a chance for a Sanchoku, but with just a singleton 9 like that, I wouldn't have imagined she would have kept that a lot around. So, it's playing against them fairly regularly. You kind of know what to expect from them. It's fairly standard. They're not going to deviate a whole lot from general book play, if you want to call it that.
And it pays off immediately because the turn after that, the tone gets drawn again, and Luis manages to get the pawn into a good shape Ishanten. However, across the way, we have Claire on the 2-mon and Hatsu Shampon. And you have to think that this early, the Hatsu is just going to easily come out from one of the other players. Especially with 2 left in the wall. And Luce probably doesn't have any choice but to kind of shove here. I mean, you can go with
little information at this point. Like you might be able to find a tile or 2 to discard, but unless you get help from other people, I mean, you're gonna end up running into that wall anyway. So if you're Ishan 10, you might as well just stick to it because like you said, there's a lot to go on.
And yeah, doubly so as dealer. Even as non-dealer, I'd be tempted to push this with the hand as it is. It looks like we do have Tenpai here, cutting the 9-mon, give you a 4-7-pin weight. And Gina chooses to Dama this. Unfortunately, it's a Pinfu Nomi. I think I might have just chased.
I think the only reason why Gina isn't is because of the fact that they don't see Dora, and so with a Ricci out there on the table and seeing also the dealer call once and not seeing any Dora, they may be more worried that there's more value out there than there is in their hand, even if they Ricci.
Absolutely. I think I wouldn't be so worried about the early Ricci, but definitely the dealer pushing might worry me a little bit. So I'm kind of a more aggressive player. When I get Tenpai, I just go with it. However, we do move on. It seems like Luce picked up the win there.
Yeah, Gina ended up drawing that 9-pin and dealing into Luce there for, I believe it was 2,900 because double tone. So
right, and Luce does happen to pick up the Ricci stick as well in the process, and has this really nice 2-shanten here with the sticky shapes and the ability to pick up something around the door fairly easily. Over on the right, though, we see the Yakuhai Anko already, and things are coming together. It needs a lot of work, though. Claire across the way, probably thinking of some kind of pinfu, maybe drawing the Dora 7-pin, and then to the left, with Gina's hand, also, yeah, kind of the pinfu vibes. You want to draw that 3-so as soon as you can, and now you have the upgrades and shapes. Decides to toss the south pair.
Yeah, maybe thinking in the end they might discard the 1-2-so anyways, so then maybe they're going to try to look for some type of Tanya as well, maybe. As for Luce, Luce ended up drawing the 8-pin to go next to the 7, and immediately took the faster way, discarding the 7-mon, even though there could be some arguments made of a 7, again, some type of Sanchoku around the 7.
Right, and I think, yeah, just as dealer, just going for the efficiency is fine there rather than chasing far away things.
Exactly. And again, this goes back to the whole idea of just being as efficient as possible when it comes to loose.
And now we see this is a classic decision when you're each on 10 with Pinfu on one side, and then the Shampon doesn't give you anything but Richidora 1. Sakigiring the 7-so here and keeping the relatively safe West and now the Chun gives you a way to fight from Ishan 10. Whereas if you had kept the 7-so, it can look quite dangerous against some of the other players, and you're not guaranteed a good weight if you get the 6-9 pin.
Especially since you're entering the second row, and usually the expectation is, and there's your Tenpai, where by the end of the first row, the general expectation is that somebody's probably or potentially Tenpai by that point.
So 6-9 pin appears to be 6 live in the wall, which is really good.
The only issue is that Luce hadn't dropped any Pinzu yet, and Pinzu is also the Dora suit, so you may feel some hesitancy from everybody else to drop that.
And it looks like Gina called into Ishanten, maybe also trying to just break Ipatsu. But it's going to be hard to fight the dealer here, especially since you have to drop the Dora in a bunch of the cases. And the Sumo comes first. Reach Sumo, Pinfu, Dora 1. Will there be the Ura? There is the Ura for 4k all. Very nice hand.
So Luce taking the lead here in East 4, now on repeat 3. This particular hand looks a little bit less desirable compared to the others. Does have, I mean, if you want to take a long shot, there could be something related to a 1-2-3 Sanchoku, but any Sanchokus that involved the edge is always a little bit more difficult to deal with. So might be a little bit harder for them to keep their dealership this time around.
But look to the right. Andre's hand has decent shapes, but like not a lot of value unless that Dora pairs up there. This is one of the first rounds where the Dora is kind of hard to use, especially with one dropped already. So we might see people pushing for a little longer than normally. Toyman has, I want to say with that 7-mon draw, you're a lot better off, especially since you're just Ishanten. If you draw the 5-mon, you have Pinfu. If you draw the 1-so 9-mon, you have a Ranman Richinomi. But you see that the Dora passed once, so I don't think he'd be too unhappy with that. And then lastly, to the left, with Gina's hands, we see her cut a 1-2-so Penchan and then immediately draw into Ishanten, though it's 2 bad shapes and no guaranteed value either. Do you think that Luce is going to hedge Chitoi here, or just aim for a normal hand?
I would say that, well, for me personally, I would say that given the fact that there's a lot of disjointed shapes in there, it's going to be really hard to make a conventional hand out of this. Even if you're just going to be, say, you're going to end up being Ricci on a Shanpon weight. So I would have definitely looked for Chitoi here, and with that 5th pair now, that's pretty much a given at this point.
So we see Andre fall into Ishanten here, Atsuzuke, but with the Dora pair, so if he does get that, it really pays off big.
I imagine Luce is going to
Ricci,
bail at this point. I don't think they're going to fight for the Chitoi. So,
I
there
wonder
goes the
if
North.
with this Ricci now, if that Hatsu comes out after all, because it's a Genbutsu, even if it is the Dora. And it does come out from Andre before anyone else can draw it.
Well, I imagine the shift would be for Tanya to possibly cut that hand off, if anything, if they're going to fight for it.
Further we go there, the less likely that's seeing, though. There's a lot of tiles that Andre's going to have to shove in for a hand that is now devalued to 1,000 points, unfortunately. And yeah, neither of the other players look like they're in good shape to fight anyways. Even Luce with Ishanten. is going to have like a Richinomi bad shape. So maybe you take the Tenpai and you shove the 1 pin since it's 1 chance and twice discarded.
I
But I
don't.
can't imagine a chase.
Luz doesn't necessarily push K10 unless they really think they can, and so I guess in this particular case, they finally decided that the 1 pin was safe enough. With 3 pins out and 2 1 pins out and everything, it probably looked fairly safe, and so that's why they ended up opting to go for that for the K10 finally.
And yeah, the Dama is definitely the right choice here, though unfortunately, if Luz had chased, she would have gotten the Patsuron on Claire.
Sumo.
Oh,
Yeah,
Claire draws it.
Yeah, even if they would have gotten the Patsu, just because of the state of everything and the lead that they had at that point, I don't think they would have. I don't think there would have been many situations where they would have declared the Ricci unless they
Oh,
needed
absolutely
the
not.
points.
But Claire does pick up the Ricci Haite Sumo there, the nick of time. All right, nice Yakuhai Anko and then Dora Ryanman for dealer here. Maybe thinking of cutting the 1-2 mon Fenchan. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's going to look like a fairly quick hand anyways, just for 2 Han.
And
I guess pipe dream maybe. No, actually, no, you wouldn't even look at a Sanchoku here. You just take your win.
yeah, absolutely. And this 6 pin is nice for a couple of reasons. Because on top of just being easier to upgrade because you can draw the 7 pin, you can also now chi the 3 pin, and while it doesn't move you forward in Shanten, you do get a Ryanmen.
Yeah.
It looks like there's a couple of options for like a Nobitan style Shanten here, but that fills in first. And so Andre is now looking for the 7 mon and Pai Height, so to take Tenpai for Hatsudora 1, maybe even a Ricci.
So I imagine you take the Ricci only if you filled in that Kanchan weight, as opposed to Ricci-ing waiting for it.
Yeah, unless it was Suji trapped or it looked really good on the board, I'd hold back just because you already have the Yakuhai. And just a 7 mon Kanchan feels bad.
Yeah.
And actually, if we look over to the right, we see where most of them are. And over on the left, the final
Eat.
7 mon is in.
Chi.
Oh wow, there goes the Ricci anyway. And
Yeah, I was gonna say
unfortunately,
it's like they
it's
got
just
the
dead.
Tenpai and they decided to go wait for it, but like you were gonna say, the 7 mons are mostly stuck in Claire's hand, and the last one is over in Luz's hand, and I can't imagine it coming out from either of
Yeah.
them.
The 9 mon simply came out because it's Genbutsu. Luis is probably not going to ever follow up with the 7 mon, even if it is 1 chance.
And Claire's Tenpai now waiting for 2
Ricci.
5 pin.
And now,
Don't.
Gina reached
doesn't
Tenpai,
matter.
but does deal in, yeah. So there's a chase on the 2 4 mon. Alright, so we enter South 2, and everyone is above 30k but Gina here, and wow.
Yikes!
And like,
What
there's not
is
a lot of
this?
like, it looks very impressive at first, and you look at it again, it's like, oh, it's not, it needs a little work to get the value there. But like, this very easily becomes a Honitsu. It can become Toy Toy. There's
Yeah.
even some worlds where you get like a Sananko with this.
I mean, you can even throw in like a Chanta possibly if they draw more ones, or the East. Like there's a lot of
Or the 9 mon,
possibilities,
yeah.
or the 9 mon because it's the Dora. So,
Oh,
there's the
wow.
East.
And now you're thinking Suanko. Though you
Yeah.
absolutely
Gee.
take the pawn if it comes first, especially with your current score.
Is there anybody that could possibly cut this off? The only person that might be loose. They might be the only one that's relatively fast enough to try to cut this off, but they need the Haku in order to do it, though.
I don't know, but Luce can just chi the 6-9 so because that's Honitsu, I think.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
Luce does have absolutely the best chance to shut down this hand.
Oh, there's the one. So it's too bad, but yeah, I can see why you'd push for the Honitsu. It's completely understandable.
And it would be nice to get like the horn row on top of that, but dropping the 2-mon pair is a hard ask.
See, would you have dropped the? I can understand why, because you take the Tenpai just for the Yakuhai Honitsu, but would you have ever decided to possibly deflect or distract everybody by discarding 4-mon instead first?
I think the 4-mon is tricky just because drawing the 5-mon is pretty powerful. Yes, who needs to door one as dealer for 58, actually 77 because of the foo, is quite impactful, and you're earning the lead, so you don't have to be so drastic. Oh, a con. That's surprising.
Come on!
Now you can't get Sun Uncle. But I don't think that was really too much of a worry to begin with. But yeah, the Kutsuki Ishanten is really nice. And now, if Claire draws the south, you get a really nice weight.
Yeah, the only thing is that having those 1-mons come out late after just cutting all those other tiles, and now you're Tenpai, but you might be on your own to try to draw this yourself, though you may be given all the time in the world.
To be honest, I think you're going to be on your own no matter what, because if anyone's looking at your first 5 discards and your calls, no one in their right mind is going to be wanting to go, oh, let me discard the 5-mon into that. Right? Even if you don't think it's Toy or something, then, it's still a Middletown Monzoon. It's so expensive. Anything can happen. If people get Tenpai, it might happen anyway. And it looks like on the left, there is a very small chance of it coming out. Now we have a Ricci on the 7-pin Kanchan, and it's going to be
as you can see with Loose, they could have called the Haku there to try to get back to their Tenpai and discard like the Chun, but because of what they see over with Claire, they're just opting not to, and they're getting out of this hand faster than you can say. Actually, I don't have a good comeback for that. Anyways, yeah,
Claire
they're gone.
And she had the chance to pawn back the Chun there now that Ipatsu had passed, but yeah, just playing it safe with the lead. Doesn't want to have to deal with the West Con that she created. And it's understandable versus last place that you don't want to deal into that. And that would be a Ricci Dora 3 hand at minimum.
Yeah, and that's probably where their con, obviously, at this point comes back to bite, because of the fact that had they not, who knows if they would have? Who knows if they would have pushed the way they did?
We're a 1.
But
now you pay 6K.
It becomes fairly costly as a result.
You pay 6K instead of 3,000. Sorry, 4,000.
At the same time, you can't necessarily fault Claire considering her place in the standings. So
and it was early on. It was also very early on in the hand, and you had a hand that you're very confident in being able to win. So yeah, it's just not something I would do. I'm a very cautious player, but yeah, being that far behind in the standings, you want to go for that extra value. Why stop at like Hanuman? Go for Paimon. So because of that, Gina is able to make up a lot of ground, is in last place still, but everyone looks within reach now, especially with her dealership here.
Yeah, it's now a very close game, and even with only 2 hands left, there's a lot of shuffling that can go on here.
And Gina's hand is not in bad shape at the moment. There's still a lot of paths for improvement. Looks like it's Andre who has one of the Doras, the Chun, and Luce also has one. Wondering if Luce is going to Sakigiri it soon, or if Luce is just going to hang on it for dear life. Now we're going to the second row. And we see a Khan. South becomes the Dora. It's the round wind. Unfortunately, it's 3 times discarded, so it's not super impactful.
My guess is if Luce hasn't discarded it yet, I don't think she will.
And especially not now.
No.
I think we've seen in general a higher tendency for people to take Dora Tanki Richis in this league than I'm normally used to. And I don't know if that's a consideration, but obviously eating the live Dora into your point rival doesn't feel good, no matter what.
Well, and I think the other reason why maybe Luce didn't discard it is because the point total is really close. You might discard it to move your hand along, but if somebody pawns it, That's 8,000 points that you've given them possibly if they win, right? Even if you
Right.
don't, even if you're not the one that ends up paying in, right? If somebody else deals into their hand. And so with the
Gina,
lead like this, then I would imagine that maybe they're just trying to more play point denial than anything else.
so Gina there made an interesting kind of like half mosh. She kept the Ishan 10 and tossed the 4-6 for the 4-6 mon. And I think that was good because, you play the safe tile, you keep your Ishan 10, and then you don't want to drop the 6 mon, both because it's dangerous and also because you have the Otsutsuki chance on the 1 mon if you fill the 3-6 so first, which is what happened. Does, however, choose to keep 7 pin over the 6 mon, and yeah, the 6 mon is half Suji, so that makes sense. And also the 7 pin looks like Suji thanks to that 3 pin toss from Claire earlier.
Yeah, but even still, like there's 3 6s called across from Andre. Although I guess since there's no 7s at all discarded, that really doesn't end up meaning a whole lot.
And I wonder if that was actually the reason she went for the 7 pin Tonki. It is a little more risky since you can see the 6 pins, but it makes it that much better of a Tonki if someone decides that they have nothing better to push. And actually, it's full Kabe because there's also a 6 pin in Luce's discard.
In Luce's discard. So it's a full Kabe.
And now Andre has paired up the Dora, which might incentivize further pushing.
That 5 pin's going to be awkward. Yeah.
Difficult choice. However, I think I would have just dropped the 5 pin because you see the Kabe on the one side, and then it's half Suji because the 2 pin passed from loose.
Well, and the other thing is that the 3s, I mean, like it was after the Richi, but the 3 and the 4 are gone too, and you can count what 1, 2, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 3 2s. So, actually no, you can count more 3s because you've called the 3 4 5.
Right.
So
Oh wow.
yeah. Oh.
I didn't expect that. I would have expected maybe the 7 pin to come out because it's Suji and
there's a
Kabe.
wall. Yeah.
Unfortunate. And that's what Dora will do to you.
So South 4 now, all last. Luce is hanging on to a very small lead of 1,600. And it's really a battle. Well, I would almost say it's a battle of two different sides here, but the point total is still relatively close that even like a Mangan Sumo would actually, by either Gina or Andre, would get you first.
Oh yeah, I would. Because the dealer takes the recovery and then you just have enough.
Yeah, if it's a Mangan Sumo, Claire would also take a 2,000 point hit. So it is still actually a relative free roll. Oh, never mind.
And the South Tonki, the one-drop South Tonki, figuring that if no one called it, it's probably in the wall. And that's also just a very deceptive weight in general.
Yeah. And if you don't really have any other tiles, you may end up discarding it anyways for lack of anything better.
But Luce, now with Ishanten incentivized to push, and can easily call into Tenpai as well. Unfortunately, those 3 pin are already gone, and there's only 1 2 pin left. Will we see the Chi into Tenpai here? Yeah, I imagine so. You don't have enough of a lead where you can just sit back. But pending any drops of the 3 pin, or the 2 pin that Andre has, it looks like Claire has the edge here. Could change the weight.
There's still one live 2 pin though, isn't there? Am I missing?
Yeah, there's a single live 2 pin versus two souths.
Yeah.
Push is the 5 pin, but that does create the Suji trap. So maybe the 2 pin comes out the next turn or two.
Well, if they get Tenpai, that with that 4 pin discard, that 2 is going to come out.
Wow. That's the example of a push that also has an ulterior motive to it.
Exactly.
Really cool. All right, so Luce extends the lead here and now can consider potentially, sitting around if their hand isn't good and someone else gets an early Richi. because I don't think Luce is in range of pulling into second place from no tin payments anymore.
No, they still fall into second if, let's see here, 33.5, 33.8.
Oh, I guess if Claire's the only one tempo.
Claire's the only one that could possibly overtake right now with a Mong on her left hand at this point.
And Luce's hand isn't that bad, so she might just end up pushing this. It doesn't have a lot of defensive capabilities yet either, so I imagine just taking the more offensive angle here is better than trying to fold from the start.
You'd almost think that Luce would have Itsu possibilities here, but it's not quite.
Yeah, it's very tricky. Both of the pairs that you have to use are involved in that Itsu shape. Meanwhile, with the other two players who are fighting for third place, or even second place at this point, really, because that Mangan Sumo still does it, it looks like Andre has a slight edge, a hand that looks more callable, at least to me. You can go for that Tanyao. And Gita's hand isn't half bad either. It is 2 Shanten, but not a lot of options to just open up.
Well, the thing is for Andre is that if they want to get out of the last, they're going to need a 2 Han hand unless they hit Gina directly. So
Oh right. Oh, that's a home
they're
run.
going to need
Not a reach
to
stick,
find some value elsewhere. There's pairs piling up, but if you're looking for even for a relatively quick hand, Cheeto is not the way I'd want to go.
All right. I think this is an okay option because you're bolstering the weak 6-8 pin. And you do leave the option for Cheeto just in case it happens. But yeah, to me, maybe going for the Ipeiko even, or Tanyo Ipeiko. And then the Honba, that's more than enough Dama. Gina still not able to draw out of that 2 Shanten despite having all good shapes.
Now, Luce is Ishan-10 and could possibly have a Tanya shape, but it's not guaranteed, and that makes it even more awkward. And here's Claire calling Ricci now, waiting for the 3-6, and Tanya, Ricci Tanya won't
we
be
might see it
enough,
come out, but it might be Ricci Potts Tanyao, and it is. Unless the 8 pin is dropped for some reason.
Long.
Now there's a 6.
Unfortunate. Will there be Ura? No Ura. 52.
Nope, but it's enough. By 400 points, it's enough.
What a comeback. So Andre, fighting for third place, is forced to deal in there, going for the Sananko Tanyao.
And so Claire getting a much needed first place here to try to get some of her points back. She's still not under 100 yet, but she is definitely within reach of the players immediately in front of her at this point.
Luce gets a nice bump into third, I believe. Yep.
Yeah,
Andre falls into second place.
But even if falling into second, they're still 50 points, a little under 50 points clear of Luce. So nothing to be concerned about yet. And then besides, there's a lot of games to go anyways.
And this is also A2, not A1, so you're looking to be in the promotion range.
Right.
Rather than just being the top player.
Right, and so top 4 end up getting promoted, so you have quite a bit of a buffer at this point, considering 5th is sitting at plus 20, so you obviously don't want to fall down to that point, but at least the buffer is there.
All right, so I believe they were only playing 2 games.
Right.
So that is the last one I'm going to be able to stay around for.
Yeah, I think this will be the end of it here, because I think we don't have any extra commentators going forward. So yeah, but we got to see quite a bit of action today with B2 and the A2 league here.
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure you were watching earlier if you saw in, I believe, the first B2 game, Michael got a Sanbaiman,
yeah, no,
dual
I
Sanbaiman.
didn't actually see that live. I just saw that in the Discord server when I saw an oh wow, and then I was like, huh, I wonder what that was. And then somebody mentioned the San Baimon. I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah, and it came out from a player in Ricci, so there's really no one to blame there. It was a
Yeah,
really nice Ricci Shampoo.
and looking back at that picture, it's just like you can't, even if there were 2 calls already, you still wouldn't have been expecting that.
Right. So we see a very slight restructuring of the top spots in A2 after this game. Um, I haven't really been tracking the other games, so I don't know if there's been any major changes elsewhere. I know we'll have Steve playing soon. My first place in A1 is very, very temporary at this point. We've been chasing each other back and forth the whole season so far.
And
And
the thing is with yours, up until recently, like even before the 3rd round started, or the 4th round started, sorry. Wait, no, 3rd round. Wait, why can't I count? 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Yeah, the 4th round. A1 had probably what do you consider the more narrower spread between top to bottom compared to some
right,
of the other leagues out there, and that's to be expected.
people are
You
just
know,
keeping each other in check a lot more. There's less drastic plays, less conning, and so the variance is lowered, and people tend to even out a lot more. And even now, um, the top 4 are really not super far from each other. It's really a 1 or 2 game swing.
well,
Whereas
and
in
the other thing is that because A1 is the top, we're the top of each of the different pools. There's probably less noise in there compared to some of the other leagues where, maybe a bad game here or there shifted somebody between a division or two. And so it's probably going to take a couple more seasons for things to settle down in terms of people where they getting closer to maybe where their league is from where they are now. And that's why you do see, like in some cases, like in B2A, for instance, Ada, who had like a minus 300 in the inaugural beta league, is completely turned it around, is almost at a plus 300 right now. So yeah, there's definitely some stratification in some of the lower leagues and everything, but there's still quite a bit to play for with as much time as there's left here.
right. All right. Anything else you want to cover before we sign off here?
No, nothing. Just glad I could hop on here for a game to call with you guys, and hope everybody enjoyed watching the games today. We'll have more broadcasts of games going on here in round 4. And I believe I accidentally labeled the stream here, so apologies for that. But yeah, just stay tuned. We'll have a lot of games have already been scheduled, so we'll definitely have more broadcasts here in the coming days.
Yeah, and make sure to check out our website, americanricci.org, or even our URL at the address link there. I believe we still have a lot of time left to register for the next season as well, right?
Right. You have until, I believe it's June 20th. It's going to be like the 2 Mondays basically before the actual start of the summer league, which starts on July 4th actually. So plenty of time to sign up. If you come in early, and if for some reason we need a sub, we may end up pulling you in so you can get some experience that way. Or we also have a practice lobby where people occasionally will come in and play some games. So if you want, you can get experience that way. And you can just get situated in the server and meet everybody in here and get to know everybody before you start hucking tiles at each other.
Right, and even if you aren't here to play or you feel that you're not ready for the league, it's a great place to come to learn things because there's a lot of really experienced players and there's channels dedicated to what we do problems, advice they can ask, and just meeting people in your community as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is while there are quite a few people in this league, and the majority of them that do belong to clubs, there's about a quarter of the population here in this league that don't belong to one. And so, if you come in and maybe you find some other people that don't have a club affiliation, you find out that you're in vicinity of each other, who knows, you may end up getting something started.
All right. Well, I'm going to sign off now. It's been great. Thanks for stopping by, Edwin. I had a blast commentating for the first time for ARML, and I hope to do it again.
No, thank you, and thanks to all the other commentators. Thank you, Nathaniel, for directing. It's not an easy job being a director. I've tried to run my own stream. It's not easy, so I understand how hard it is, and I definitely appreciate the work that you guys do. So, yeah, I guess with that being said, do you want to sign us off here?
Um, yeah, everyone, have a good night, and we'll see you again for the next games in this coming week.
Have a good night, everybody.